So day 2 of Chiefs camp featured a few different surprises as some unexpected players stood out early. A couple of them worked in with the first team offense, and one has a legitimate shot of continuing to climb the ranks and even make the 53-man roster if he keeps making plays like he did today. So I've got to break all that down, talk about today's standouts and players worth continuing to pay attention to. But first, how about those? Alright, so day 2 of training camp is over with the pads still not on and practices a bit shorter as they ramp things up heading into the weekend. The attendance for the day was the same as day 1, with everyone fully participating aside from the 3 players off to the side on the PUP list. Again, those 3 are cornerback Kristian Fulton, offensive tackle Jawaan Taylor, and tight end Tre Watson. There's no real status update on Tre Watson from what I've heard, but both Fulton and Jawaan are dealing with knee issues. Jawaan had an offseason knee procedure done, and Andy said he will be the first one to most likely come off the PUP list, at least between both he and Kristian Fulton. So with Jawaan out, the starting 5 on the offensive line yesterday was Josh Simmons, to everybody's delight, at left tackle, Kingsley Suamataia at left guard, then of course Creed, Trey Smith, and Jalen Moore at right tackle. Well, today it was the same exact situation. You had Simmons at left tackle and Jalen Moore on the right side. Wanya Morris worked in yesterday as the second team left tackle, with Ethan Driscoll actually as the team's second team right tackle. If you look at the first team and second team names all stacked together here, it looks like their depth chart to me right now, but when Jawaan Taylor comes back from the PUP list, that's where I would think the left tackle depth is Josh Simmons, then Jalen Moore, at least based on how things are shaping up right now, then Jawaan Taylor at right tackle, followed by Wanya as the backup. Wanya looked much more comfortable in his limited reps at right tackle last season compared to the left side, so that makes a bit more sense to me to have Jalen Moore as the backup left tackle over Wanya, considering Jalen Moore has played the left tackle position at a higher level. Regardless, let's see what happens once the pads come on this weekend and also when Jawaan Taylor returns. We have no idea when that is yet, but he can come off the PUP list at any point during training camp. From there, we saw Mahomes rifle one deep to Hollywood Brown for a touchdown, and Worthy catching a nicely placed ball via an out route, and I like to see that sideline awareness from him. Of course, both of these were against air. Casper the friendly ghost literally in coverage, but Hollywood was targeted later on in 7-on-7 deep down the left side with Jalen Watson in coverage, and then Tyquan Thornton made an incredible grab down the sideline as well via a perfectly placed back shoulder throw from Mahomes. Jalen Watson was once again in coverage, and Thornton climbed the ladder to haul it in and maintain possession. A great snag by Tyquan, and he is certainly a guy to keep eyes on during camp for a couple reasons that I'll get into later in today's video. But it's worth noting that at this point during camp, and even most of camp, the defensive backs are at a clear disadvantage because the defensive line is not allowed to hit the quarterbacks. This gives the offensive skill position players more time to get open than they typically would have in an actual game. Coach Spags actually spoke on that exact thing today during his presser, but he said it's good practice for the defensive backs because there will be times in an actual game where opposing quarterbacks are able to extend the play. In fact, there are a lot of quarterbacks that are athletic enough to extend plays more often than not in today's league. And before I get into a couple more takeaways from Spags' presser on the subject of not being allowed to hit quarterbacks, did you know that there's a special rule put in place for Chris Jones at practice? He's actually not allowed to even chase a quarterback once he gets past the line of scrimmage. The reason for that is because he used to show Mahomes he could still get to him as he extended the play during practices. And a few years ago when doing that, the CEO of Sack Nation pulled his groin during the season right before a playoff game. So since then, the rule has been in place for him. Both Chris Jones and Spags, though, spoke highly of defensive end George Karlaftis, aka G-Money, who was very recently extended by the team. Spags labeled him a high-character guy, which is huge to him. He's unselfish, loves the game, has a super high IQ that stood out even during his draft process. Then, Chris Jones said he's super proud of George Karlaftis, noting the Chiefs did right by him with that extension. He doesn't cut corners, doesn't take shortcuts, none of that. He's all in as a player in this defense. Now, somebody to keep eyes on along that defensive line is KC's second-round draft pick, defensive tackle Omarr Norman-Lott. He got a lot of reps with the first-team defense today, which is no real surprise because he's going to potentially be leaned upon quite a bit during his rookie campaign. He at least has the easiest path to playing time based on the shape of that D-line. So the sooner they ramp him up, the better. Chris Jones likes what he's seen from Omarr so far, noting that Yes, he's young, but he has a lot of raw talent and will be a great asset along the line. He's just got to work on technique and fundamentals, but he can rush the passer and is quick out of his stance, which are some definite positives to his game. Another rookie with a positive attached to his name right now is the third-round cornerback Noel Williams. Spags shared that he was drowning a bit, learning everything during OTAs, but he came to camp in good shape and is doing much better thus far in comparison. Camp will get him some really good reps in preparation for his rookie year, and honestly, with Christian Fulton out, he could find himself in competition for that CB3 spot if he is able to learn the defense quickly enough. It's a pretty tough ask from a rookie because Spags runs a very complex system, a system that is ran essentially quarterbacked by linebacker Nick Bolton. We all know how much Spags loves Bolton, and he was asked about him today, and he quickly replied saying Nick is just about everything to the defense. Quote, "He's Patrick Mahomes for us." And if you don't have a guy like that out there, it gets pretty challenging. Spags was actually trying to process what they would do on defense without Bolton if they had lost him in free agency, but thankfully it didn't come to that, and he is very glad Bolton is here. Another guy still here, albeit on the last year of his rookie deal, is safety Brian Cook. Cook seemed unbothered about that, though, when asked about this being a contract year for him by the media today. He's just trying to be himself out there and has had what he described as a long career, featuring lots of ups and downs. He came back from a pretty nasty ankle injury a couple years ago, and even though he didn't look quite his pre-injury self last year, I'm rooting for B. Cook as he enters year 4. Safety Jaden Hicks is likely filling in the big hole left behind by Justin Reed in free agency, and Brian Cook seemed pretty confident about Jaden being able to do that. Jaden's capacity to learn is awesome. He soaks it all in at a rapid rate, and that guy can bring the energy. He brings the juice, as B. Cook said, and he's always ready to learn and grow. Cook also said the offense has some key pieces back this year, which Mahomes is grateful for, and with the offense moving their skill position players all around, it helps the defense's IQ back there in the secondary to basically always be prepared, head on a swivel, and iron sharpens iron. Speaking of iron sharpening iron, Chris Jones said the battle between the O-line and D-line will be just that. Both Kingsley Suamataia and Josh Simmons are new guys that are battling for starting spots out there on the left side, and that makes for some great competition. They have one of the hardest training camps out there for a reason, and that really helps these guys prepare for the upcoming season. I do think the more guys like Kingsley and Simmons can go up against guys like Chris Jones and Charles Omenihu, George Karlaftis, the better. It will help them prepare to go up against some absolute monsters this season. I sure hope the D-line comes in a bit more alive this season, as they were second in sacks 2 seasons ago, but dropped to the bottom half of the pack last year. Chris Jones himself said they were not good enough getting home to the quarterback in 2024, and he himself took complete accountability for that. Obviously, it's not all his fault, but hey, that's what leaders do. It's a definite emphasis on something they want to improve on for the 2025 season. That's for sure. Something else the Chiefs hope to improve upon is their run game that featured some of the fewest amount of explosive plays of any team in the league. Well, running back Isaiah Pacheco is back, even further removed from that ankle injury, and is feeling fantastic out there. He even intentionally put on a little bit of weight with the help of a trainer, and he is very excited for this upcoming season, to say the least. Kareem Hunt could be seen flying around out there yesterday, showing great burst, and he did the opposite of Pacheco, actually slimming down just a tad. I think Hunt is potentially the guy to watch out for as your third down back, but all in all, Pacheco said the running back room is phenomenal. Guys are playing all different roles, having fun with it, and competing. And if you're going to be a running back in the Chiefs offense, you have to be able to do just a little bit of everything. Pacheco also said his goal for this year is the same as it was last year before injury. He wants to rush for 1,000 yards. So let's get it. His words, not mine. I have no idea if that'll happen because of the Chiefs not running the ball as much and it also being a running back by committee sort of approach, but I can't wait to see this guy angrily stomping the grass as he penetrates the hole, pause, and takes off to the next level. Another guy to keep eyes on is the 7th round rookie Brashard Smith, who caught a pass from Mahomes in stride off a wheel route and showcased that sub 4.40 speed to pull away from the defense. I would put quite a bit of money on the Chiefs intentionally creating a mismatch with the converted wide receiver and doing something like this more than once this upcoming season, so watch out for that. He's also a potential third down back candidate, but his lack of overall experience at the running back position makes me a bit nervous there. To have him lined up back there protecting Mahomes on a third down and pass protection, I think it's something that's going to take time, and he could learn and be the team's next quote-unquote Jerick McKinnon of the future. Now, Brashard Smith also rotated in on special teams working on punt returns, and his speed alone could make for an interesting case to have him back there over Nikko Remigio. I want to go with reliability over everything. Just don't muff the punt, and I don't care who's back there. Xavier Worthy also worked in a bit on punt returns, and special teams coordinator Dave Tobe said during OTAs that Worthy could be very dangerous back there as a punt returner for the team. Shoot, if Tobe had it his way, I'm sure Worthy would be the returner for the team. He returned punts in college and averaged over 15.5 yards per return 2 of his 3 seasons at Texas after all. He would certainly be fun to have back there, don't get me wrong, but I think Andy Reid wouldn't be too excited to have Worthy on special teams based on how much they plan to utilize him in the offense moving forward. Speaking of receivers, I want to hone in on that room a bit because, as I shared earlier, the former second-round pick of the Patriots, Tyquan Thornton, had an incredible catch during practice, and there's a couple reasons why I think he could make a push for the Chiefs' 53-man roster. For starters, Justin Ross is now gone after he was asked to be released, and then Rashee Rice could very well start the season out suspended. That has Worthy, Hollywood, Jalen Royals, and Juju as locks, with Nikko Remigio most likely a lock as well as the team's returner. He could also see an increased role on offense during Rice's suspension, but still, even with Nikko, that's only 5 receivers. Meanwhile, the Chiefs like to roll with 6 or sometimes even 7, which leaves Tyquan Thornton, Sky Moore, Jason Brownlee, Elijah Badger, Mac Delana, and a couple of others fighting for the last couple of spots. I can't rule out a veteran being added in free agency either. Keenan Allen is keeping his eyes open, but it doesn't feel very likely right now unless an unfortunate injury hits the room. I think Sky is probably given the nod at times during camp, but at this point, I would really like to see somebody else get chances and opportunities, so it's Team Tyquan Thornton for me right now because why the heck not? The guy ran a 4.2840 at the 2022 NFL Combine, and believe it or not, he's also bigger than the average Chiefs receiver at 6'2", albeit a slimmer framed guy around 180 pounds. My thing is, sure, he's been labeled a bust by Patriots fans as he's only had 1 season with 247 yards and has declined each year after that, but the guy was in a pretty dysfunctional Patriots offense, quarterbacked by Mac Jones, Jacoby Brissett, and then Drake May for a little bit there, who was still a rookie learning the ropes. So I'm all for giving another guy an opportunity over somebody like Sky Moore, but I'd love to get your thoughts on this in the comments down below. Do you agree with me on that or nah? Tyquan Thornton or Sky Moore? I believe even Nate Taylor of ESPN had Thornton making his initial 53-man roster that just recently came out. Now, suspension or not incoming for Rice, they are full speed ahead with their wide receiver 1 at camp. Rice was the most targeted receiver out there at practice yesterday and got right to work once again today with Mahomes as well. Mahomes darted one to Rice as Chamari Connor flew in on a simulated blitz, a guy that Spags is pretty high on and wants to move all around in that defense. I just hope he's not the slot corner this season. Anyway, in regards to Rice catching that pass, he will often be a safety valve for Mahomes this season. However, the rookie Jalen Royals could be a guy they use a bit in Rice's stead during suspension, and he was noticeably getting quite a bit of work in with the first-team offense today. Mahomes fired one to him in tight coverage in the middle of the field, also connecting with Royals on a quick slant, showing to be in sync timing-wise, so hopefully they keep the reps up with Royals and that stock continues to rise. And before we get to the tight end room, a couple other standout plays worth noting was this catch by Juju Smith-Schuster as Gardner Minshew himself slung it to him, contested grab, and that's why I love having Juju on the roster, especially on a vet min deal. And then shout out to Chris Roland Wallace, who had a nice PBU here as Minshew tried to fire one in to Sky Moore, middle of the field, pass broken up, incomplete. I like seeing that from Roland Wallace. Then this was an interesting note about the tight end room, but it looks like the UDFA out of Clemson, Jake Briningstool, was initially getting some work in with the first team offense today. Meanwhile, the second year, Jared Wiley worked with the second team offense. He's still wearing a sleeve on that leg as he's working back from that ACL repair, with Andy Reid noting yesterday Wiley's getting his timing back after missing time, but it was interesting to see Briningstool out there for at least a bit with the top offense today. Briningstool spent the last part of OTAs and mandatory minicamp dealing with some sort of an injury, but it's awesome to see him back out there and working because a lot of fans are high on Briningstool. I wouldn't read too much into that though, because Wiley did eventually work in some with the ones. And if he avoids the PUP list to start the season, unless the Chiefs want to roll with 4 tight ends on the roster, I think it's pretty safe to say that the tight end room is locked up, with the first 3 being Travis Kelce, Noah Gray, and Jared Wiley. Make sure to let me know your thoughts on the tight end room and if you think Briningstool can make the cut or not. And with that, I'll see y'all tomorrow after day 3 of Chiefs training camp. So until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?